Shalom everyone, and today we are studying the book of BaMidbar, the first Parashat BaMidbar, and of course that's BaMidbar, chapter 1, verse 1. וידבר השם אל משה במדבר סיני בעול מועד, באחד לחודש השני, בשנה השנית לצאתם ממצרים לאמור. And here we're talking about, it was in the desert, in the tabernacle, on the first day of the month of Iyar, the second month, on the second year, that was the second year of the Exodus. And here we're speaking about verse 2, שאו את ראש כל עדת בני ישראל, raise the heads of every person in the congregation of the children of Israel, according to their families and their paternal belongings, every male. And here we're talking about making a census. And the question is, what do we learn from this parasha? And since we are starting this week a new book from the 5 books of Moses, what is the main issue of this book? Because as we learned before, the Hebrew calendar is structured of cycles that are connected to our spiritual work, which means every cycle, every year, is on one hand, Shana means a year in Hebrew, Shana means repeated, Shana means learned, Shana means did the same thing again. And so the question is, are we going to do it all over again? Are we going to learn and do it differently? Because shinui means change. So it's all in one word. So every year, when the new year is coming, Rosh Hashanah, it's the head of the year, and we have that opportunity to transform ourselves and really cleanse, change, clear, improve, and rise to another cycle. Cycle, Shana. Okay, repetitive cycle. That's Shana. However, we said that every year when we're starting a new cycle, we're starting to read the whole 5 books of Moses all over again. And the beginning of the cycle is when we start to read the book of Genesis, and that's on the holiday of Simchat Torah, which is 22 days after the beginning of the Hebrew calendar year. Okay, now the new year. Now, so we said the first book, the book of Genesis, is reenacting the rules, which means if we are different, we have to relearn, reload all the operational programs, which is for Abraham. We learn by the studying of Abraham's life. We not just learn, we download the app of Chesed, loving kindness, that without that app, you're not online. You're not connected to the cloud. You're not connected to the spiritual dimension, and you're not really able to move forward if you know that expression, start with the right foot. What's the right foot? Abraham, which means Chesed. Whenever you start something new, you have to think about, okay, what am I going to give over here? Because if I'm just thinking about what I'm going to receive, I'm not going to go that far. However, you need Isaac, because after you want to give and you realize your giving and your vision, you need to understand that you're also here to take. And taking, receiving, is basically our birthright. We are born for that. However, in order not to be separated from the Creator, we need to start with joining Him by the law of affinity, sharing like He's sharing, loving like He's loving. And that is the app we get by connecting to Abraham. Isaac will give us the app of what about me? I'm here also a person, and I deserve to receive too. Okay? Not just everybody, I'm supposed to take also, because if I don't get, I'm missing my destiny. Okay? And then comes Jacob, which is the ability to balance between the two, the chesed, loving kindness, gvura, judgment, and learning how to put the boundaries, and knowing about ourselves, and arousing ourselves, awakening ourselves in from as a vessel. We're here basically the vessel to receive God's light. So that's about Jacob. And Joseph is the app of Sfirat Yesod, which means how to apply that to success, visible success in everyday's life. Okay? Genesis. Then the book of Exodus is about, coming out to freedom, because everybody has his own Egypt, his own limitations. Every cycle, every year, we have to wage another war of independence for our liberty, spiritual, conscious liberty. And after we finish that, we come to the book of Leviticus, number 3, which is about our calling. Purification, sanctification, holiness. How do we raise ourselves to that place that we can basically focus better about who we are, what we want to achieve, and what are the rules doing it. And then comes the book of Numbers, and as it is in English, it is the book of many, many numbers, the numbers of the Israelites in the desert, a census here and a census there, to the whole book, and that's why the book is called the book of Numbers. However, in Hebrew, the book is BaMidbar, in the desert. Okay, which is another aspect, and let us try to understand what does it mean. First of all, there are many explanations about why the book is named BaMidbar, in the desert, but before that, we have, in order to understand it, we have to understand that this book is about after you achieve your calling and you really connect to it, you have to understand that it's it is about a community. It's about a society. It's about teamwork. It takes a village. And that's why most of the book is dealing with the nation of Israel as a bunch of different tribes, and every tribe is made of different households, and every household is made of different individuals, and each one of them has its own different separate assignment, and the real success is when all of it is functioning as one. And let us see the major concept we learn about it in this book of BaMidbar. So the first thing is I'm reading now from the Zohar Parashat BaMidbar, in the beginning of the Zohar, verse 1 in a Sulam commentary of Rabbi Ashlag. Okay, וידבר השם אל משה מדבר סיני בעול מועד, רבי אבא פתח, ויברא אלוהים את האדם בצלמו. And Rabbi Abba is starting with a quote from Genesis chapter 1, and God created Adam in his image. Haikra Itmar, this verse, what does it say? תחזה, בשעתה דברה קודשה ברכו לאדם, עבד לי בדיוקנה דהילאי ותתאי. When Adam has been created, he was created in the image of the upper worlds and the lower worlds. Whoever studies Kabbalah cannot not study the concept that is called the tree of life. And the tree of life is a very, very central concept in the study of spirituality, because the tree of life is the concept that when the Creator is shining, illuminating His endless light into our reality, that light must go through a process, an evolutionary process, that the light comes down not as one abrupt uh, illumination, but the light is coming down through a cascade of worlds, curtains, realities, and separations, that basically, when the light is coming down, it is coming down level by level till every creature, human being, atom, particle in this vast, endless universe of our reality is another aspect of that endless light coming from the essence of the Creator. So why is that called the tree of life? So there are two meanings that's easy for us to remember in order to figure out what does it mean, tree of life, for us. First, the first one is that when you're standing there, let's say in a huge lawn or a field, and there's one big tree standing in front of us. Everything is like either a desert or very low grass, and you cannot not see one big tree standing in front of you. Do you see the whole tree? And the answer is you're not, because very big part of the tree is the roots underneath the ground that are not visible to the naked eye. And therefore, when we say the tree of life, we take the aspect of a tree, that the tree has two realities, two parts. One part is visible, which is the trunk, the branches, the leaves, the flowers, the fruits, all what is visible to the naked eye. However, without the part that is below the ground, the invisible part, the tree won't be able to stand even for a second. And the tree won't be able to be alive even for a very short time. And the moment the roots are being cut off, you'll see very shortly how the leaves start to wilt, and so on and so forth, and the tree is going to collapse. So the same way, our reality is like the tree. We can see a world, a whole rich world full of diversities, of colors and shapes and frequencies, and different fruits of the evolutionary process. We can see insects of all so many kinds, and reptiles, and mammals, and birds, and so many different kinds of plants and other stuff, and that's only on planet Earth. When we're looking at the heavens and we see all the zodiac signs, and we see the star constellations, and different kinds of stars, and old stars and young stars, and blue stars and green stars and red stars, all of that stuff. And the universe is so diverse. That is like the branches, the leaves, and the flowers and the fruits of the tree. However, the same way as in the tree of life, a tree, all of it, all of what is visible is basically nourishing from the root system that is invisible. And that is the spiritual world beyond the five senses. And therefore, when we speak about the concept of the tree of life, the first thing to remember is that nothing of what we see or perceive or understand in our physical reality, nothing can exist without some spiritual dimension that feeds it and nourishes it. And when that spiritual aspect or dimension is shut down, then the physical reality, the physical branch, will be shut down too. And that is a very, very important concept for understanding reality. The other concept that is important for understanding reality is the concept of you looking at the tree and you're looking at the top of the tree and also the bottom of the tree, and you see the concept in modern mathematics which is called fractals. You see how the branches are branching out in a way that is very similar to the way that a delta of a big river is branching out. Or if you're looking through a microscope on the blood vessels, how they're branching out from big vessels into small little tiny vessels into the different parts of every tissue in the physical body. You see the same story everywhere in reality, and you understand that reality is made of many events or objects, individuals, creatures. All of them are branching out from the same tree. You can't always see how they're all connected, but the tree is not a tree without all of these manifestations of the original tree. And you know what they say, too many trees, you don't see the forest, too many leaves, you don't see the tree. Which means reality is not just two faces, spiritual and physical or dimensions, but also in the spiritual and in the physical, there is every whole is made of many little particles, diverse particles that create the whole. And you don't have, like we know, that nature has the tendency of diversity everywhere. And the same way it is below, so it is above. Now, so the book of Bamidbar, that's one of the major concepts the book is teaching us. It's about that we are all, after we learn how to function, after we learn that we are born to be free, after we learn to look for our holiness, we have also to learn that you cannot do that without your community, without your nation, without humanity, without nature, without all different aspects of nature. And the major important thing is that each individual is different. However, we are all part of the same whole. And when we are not functioning this way, that's a cause for a lot of misery, pain, and suffering for humanity and for the rest of the creation. So here is basically what the Zohar is trying to give us, and that's the first layer of the teaching of this parasha and this book. Now, the question is, why is it called the Book of the Desert? And the answer is, there are many different ways to explain, but one very common answer is that what's the difference between a desert and a non-desert place? And the answer is, when you are in a place that is not desert, and by the way, in original biblical Hebrew, a desert is a place that is not settled, controlled, occupied by human beings, which means you can be also in a forest that is full of creatures and green stuff and foliage and stuff like that. It's still called a desert because it is deserted. Humans do not live over there. That's why it's called a desert. I'm talking about the ancient use of the word desert in Hebrew. Now, since in Israel, which was always in the ancient times, till the destruction of the second temple and a little bit later, every place that had some rain was populated and inhabited by humans. All the places that were deserted were basically places with no rain and no water. So it became an association between, if the place is deserted, it's because people cannot live there, and therefore it's deserted. Okay? However, if you go to America, and there are many countries, you see the population is not so big, and they do not occupy all the areas that are uh, capable of being populated, because there are not enough people, or because people prefer to live in a city and not to live outside. Now, why is that important? Because when you are in a city or in an area that is populated with humans, uh, there are very, very strict rules about where you can go, where you cannot go, which means there are public roads and ways and paths that you can walk through from one place to another. However, wherever you have a private property, people that own that property will make sure people won't pass by just like this randomly, because that's damage. Or how would people know it's my private property? Either if I put a fence, or I put walls, or I'll simply put signs that whoever will cross, bypass, or trespass my property is going to be attacked by my dogs or my weapons and stuff like this. So people prefer to walk only through public roads and stuff like this, which means you cannot just go right or left, front or back as you wish. You have to obey the laws of the rules that and the boundaries of private properties. While when you are in the desert, you can stand in the desert and you can walk whichever direction you physically can walk. Okay? And there's nobody there to say, do not trespass and do not come into my property, otherwise so and so forth, I'm going to punish you, I'm going to hurt you, or I'm simply going to build uh, any kind of a fence or obstacle, so you cannot walk through my property. So a desert is a symbol of freedom and no boundaries, because whoever experienced that, you can run in the desert in each direction, and there's a sense of freedom, because you don't have to just stop and change your road, your way, because somebody just said, this is mine, you cannot come into my place. Okay? So let us try and understand what's in it for us, and the message especially for this parasha. So when Adam was created in the image of God, as we said, the Adam as an individual, and as we're going to see in the whole book of BaMidbar, as a society, human beings were created in the image of heavens, the image of the upper worlds. Which means, on one hand, we are all united with everybody. We all dependent on everybody else, which means we're not complete without others. Therefore, something that I think I spoke about it many times, the Hebrew word for shalom, which most people translate it as peace. But in different languages, every word has a different uh, area of definition that word covers, which means the difference between peace and shalom is very big. Peace means, in Hebrew, the word peace, peyut samich, means that people do not fight with each other. So when you say the two people were fighting and you made peace among them, lefayes otam, or hitpaisu, it means they do not fight anymore. But when you say that these people live in shalom, it means that they cannot live without each other, which is very different than peace, which means shalom comes from the Hebrew word shalem, a whole, complete, And from the book of Bamidbar, the whole book, it's all about, yes, every human being has a mission, every human being has a godly source and origin, every human being has its own unique abilities and how should I say, and role in our universe. However, we all complete each other and no one can do it by himself. Especially whoever is in business, you know that the moment you want, you want to make a living, it's very easy to make a living by yourself. You simply take a job or you open a little kiosk or something like this and you make a living. You go into sales, but if you want to create something a little bit bigger than that, the issue of teamwork is essential, it's crucial. There's no way you can create something big without teamwork. Why? You cannot, like, the moment the business is growing, and if you don't take an accountant and you have to do all the accounting, you don't have time to be creative, okay? And generate new products. Okay, and if you really wanted to go to make the great products, what about selling? You cannot create amazing products without sales department, okay, and service, and so on and so forth, which means you can have few people building together a business. On one hand, they have the same mission, the same vision, the same values, which is very, very, very much important. However, they must be completing each other and it cannot be identical to each other. Why? Because if you have a team with the same mission and vision and so on and values, but they all of them are into sales, who is going to create the product? Who is going to manage the system? Who is going to do the accounting? Who is going, you know what I'm saying? You must have a teamwork, and the teamwork means brainstorming. It means a lot of ideas coming together and with a lot of noise and chaotic debates till you create a road that everybody agrees to walk by. But because of the diversity gives that company power, that companies that have only one dictator, which means one owner, that he says everything, he decides everything, and he micromanages everything, which means you just have to do what he tells you. This kind of a management is not that productive, science is teaching us, as a company that is very diverse, a little bit chaotic. Still, people know how to unite all the different melodies in order to create a symphony, in order to create something that is a music that is harmonic, but is made of many, 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 many different sounds of the violin and the flute and the drums, and you know what I'm saying. Okay? Reality, that's what Parashat Bamidbar and the whole book of Bamidbar is about. It's about the functioning of the universe till the last few parashot in the book of Vayikra. And also before that, there was a lot of emphasis about taking the heavenly rules, concepts, and the need to transfer them and manifest them in everyday's life, in relationships, in society, family, and so on and so forth. Here, the book of Bamidbar is making it into a science. Okay? So let's now, with understanding that, we will be able to understand much better the rest of the article in the Zohar. So the Zohar says when Adam was created, he was included of the upper worlds and the lower worlds. And that means that two dimensions. והיה אורו מאיר מסוף העולם ועד סוף העולם. And his light was shining all over the universe. הכל היו יראים מפניו. All other creatures of the creation had awe to Adam because his shining, his light was so powerful and so overwhelming. However, the Zohar continues. So we have to look at this verse that says, and God created Adam in his image. In the image of God, he created him. Because he said in his image, Betzalmo, why do we have to add in the image of God, he created him? We understood it already from the beginning. Why do you have to add words that it looks like they're redundant? The answer is to emphasize that when Adam was created, yes, he was created in the image of God. However, he was also created of two images, male and female. As it says in the text, Zachar u'nekeva bara otam. In the image of God, he created him. Male and female, he created them. Okay? Which means when we are speaking about Adam, Adam was already a whole, which means he included a male aspect and a female aspect. When you say Adam, you mean both faces, the female and the male. And that means, in Jewish tradition, when you speak about a single human being that is not married, he's only half a person. He's not really complete, because when you are only single, then you are just half of Adam. You're not a really complete human being. And therefore, only when you get married, then you become a real, complete, whole human being. And first of all, as Rabbi Azakloria is teaching us, the concept of loving others as you love yourself, you have to start first with your spouse. Why? Because that's the hardest, and it is of the highest level of intensity of feedback. When you make a mistake with your spouse, then you realize the consequences in a much more abrupt and sometimes violent way, which means it affects your life standards, okay, immediately. It affects the atmosphere in the household immediately, the functioning of the family immediately. So if you really notice that and you take upon yourself to generate love in your the first unit of diversity, which is men and women, they're never the same. They're created differently. They're built physically differently, physiologically. They're not the same. You cannot say they're the same. Yes, both have the same right for happiness, for freedom, and for growth. However, they're not the same. Whoever says they're the same, I think it needs to go through a reality check. They're not the same. Okay, everybody can see that. Every little kid can see that they're not the same. Now, and thank God they're not the same. Because what the whole concept of love and shalom, peace, is about completing oneself. How do you complete yourself? When you add somebody who's not like you. Okay? Because they see what you cannot see. You see what they cannot see. When you complete each other, you need each other. If the other person that I love is exactly like me, which is a wonderful idea, impossible, but wonderful idea, okay? You know how many kids had a dream about having a twin brother or twin sister? I'm talking about the ones who did not have. Somebody will understand me, be exactly like me. And then as you grow up, you realize that you don't need people like you because you have yourself already. You need people to see what you cannot see, that they can hear what you cannot hear, that they can think what you cannot think, that they can understand what you cannot understand, and together you create something much bigger than just yourself. Okay? And that is the first concept, which is male and female. Then we go to verse 4 in the Zohar. והיה מסתכל בחוכמה למעלה ולמטה. And Adam had the ability to see, perceive, understand the wisdom and the structure of the universe in the upper worlds and the lower worlds, which means in the root level, in the branch level, to see how everything goes with everything else. That the whole universe is a masterpiece, a creation that on one hand it's so diverse, on the other hand it's so organized, and the rules of the operation of the universe is so and so complete and perfect. However, when Adam sinned, said the Zohar, nitma'atu apartzufim, the perception of Adam minimized, which means a regular human being has a very, very small ability to see the big picture. Even the big picture in his own private uh, area of work, family, and so on, we are so blind most of the time. How many times in our lifetime we pinch ourselves by saying, like, how could I be so blind? How could it be it was in front of me? The answer were written on the wall. I couldn't see that. And then we have those wake-up calls again and again and again that simply remind us how limited is our perception. Therefore, it's another incentive for us to understand why is it we need always to communicate ideas, concepts, visions, values with other people, because we are so blind. We need other people's eyes and brains in order to be able to release ourselves from our blindness. And that came after the sin of Adam. And then the wisdom left Adam. He was not able anymore after the sin to see the whole picture. Adam, before the sin, he was in the Garden of Eden. What does it mean, the Garden of Eden? Being able to see the whole picture and to be able to simply associate and harmonize with reality. When you can do that, you are in heavens. Everything is perfect because you simply go with the rules of the universe. And if you simply, so think about it. You never eat what you do not have to eat. You never say what you're not supposed to say. You always say what you are supposed to say because it brings some value, and all your behaviors and movements are simply aligned with the whole melody and harmony of the symphony of reality. You live a harmonious life that is so valuable, so full of fulfillment, and that's called being in heaven. Okay? So it's not about reality that we're talking about, it's about our perception of reality. Okay? That's why the sages said, Olamcha tireh b'chayecha. When you really follow the rules, which means when you really learn how to understand the rules of the universe and to learn how to play together with the great orchestra, which is creation. How does it feel to sit in a big hall and listen to an amazing orchestra, and also how great it is to be one of the musicians playing one of the instruments as part of that amazing music? That is how heavens feel like, because you're simply in harmony with everything. That's why maybe people are willing to pay so much money in order just to come and join something like this, which means a lot of instruments and people playing, working together to create something much bigger than each one of them. And of course, if you go to the show of the best performance of the best violinist, pianist, it's not the same as being part of a big orchestra with a huge choir. Why is this heavenly? Because it is heavenly. That's how heavens feel like. Which means, if I can create that kind of harmony at my working place, my family, my community, the more harmony I feel, the more shalom, wholeness I will feel, that everybody completes me and I complete everybody else, the more I am connected to be living heaven on earth, as our sages are saying. Okay, but then comes another concept, which is also very, very important for the whole book of Bamidbar. So first concept is about, if you really want to feel heavens, you really want to feel connecting to the truth, you really want to feel connecting to your essence, you need to understand that there is an upper world and a lower world, and both of them are very diverse, but all of this diversity is basically branching out of the same big tree of life. And when every part of the tree of life is vibrating together the same melody, that means feeling heaven. Okay? And you don't have to die in order to achieve that feeling. Whoever experienced that, when you just simply do something with other people and it is in harmony, in completion, in real true love and participation and respect. But the other concept is verse 7. כיוון שהוקמו התורה והמשכן, שהם זרפי ומלכות. So when the whole world was chaotic, and why would the whole world will be chaotic? The first value that you need to adopt, that you need to commit to, you must have it like engraved as part of the covenant of our existence as human beings, as individuals, is the commitment, the covenant with the rules of the creation. And first of them all is that I know that I was created selfish in order for me to gain the harmony by transforming selfishness into altruism. By transforming, as the words of Rabbi Ashlag, the desire to receive for the self alone that we all born with, into the desire to receive for the sake of sharing. Which means, when I really want to achieve greatness, because when I reach greatness, people have more value and benefit from my everyday life. Because when I achieve my own greatness, other people get the benefit, and when I don't achieve my greatness, other people cannot create what I can create, so they will always be lacking what I'm not supporting them with. Okay? So, and the only way I can do it is by aligning myself, connecting myself to the network of the creation and the creator. And the first step is the value that as long as I am selfish, my ability to connect to the system it's not there. The only way to connect to the system is to the tree of life, is when I commit to transform selfishness into altruism. The desire to receive for oneself alone to the desire to receive for the sake of sharing. That's a concept, that's a commitment. This is the first must condition. Without it, no community will ever be functional. Not one person will be functional. And look around. Look around. It looks like our world is in a stage that we realize. Here there are dysfunctional states. Here there are states who are semi-functional, which means they get by. Here there are states or societies that are flourishing. The most important definition, if you look at it carefully, of where is success, I'm talking about the physical level and the GDP. the ability of those nations, those societies to generate wealth, security, health, and happiness, and uh, and a welcoming environment to the members of those societies. You go around today all over planet Earth and you see each country, each society has a different level of functioning. The more commitment the members of the society have for that concept of loving others as thyself, as others, thyself as others, loving others as yourself, the more successful it is for the longer run. Okay? And the more selfishness people are people have, and the less commitment they have for the for the society, for the public, the more dysfunctional reality you see, and the more is the pain. And as Rabbi Ashlag is saying, humanity today, with all the crazy pace of economy, politics, society, okay, and all the pressures, and now that the whole world is like a big, big village, talking about Rabbi Ashlag, 1930, okay, we are all interdependent. We cannot without each other. As the more selfish we become, the more pain we're going to experience, till we are going to realize that we have to, in condition to have a normal life without so much pain, is to accept the idea of loving others for as you love yourself. Okay? And that will happen. How could that happen? And then comes verse 7 in the Zohar. כיוון שהוקמו התורה והמשכן, in order to fix the world after it fell apart as a result of the sin of Adam, the world started little by little to fix itself. And that starts with Noah and his children, and that moves another step forward by Abraham and Isaac and Jacob, Abraham and Sarah, Isaac and Rivka, Jacob and Rachel and Leah, and then the 12 sons of Jacob, and then the nation of Israel in Egypt. But it did not really come even close to its real calling only when the Israelites leave Egypt and they are becoming free enough to be able to manifest that rule of loving others as you love yourself. Without accepting that idea, there wouldn't be any Mount Sinai revelation. Everybody says so, all the commentators. Only when the nation of Israel came to Mount Sinai and they stood there as one person, one heart, the heavens did not open up and the revelation did not start. So the whole revelation of the rules of the universe, they depend on the ability of the human heart to love. So wisdom is totally dependent in love, in understanding that love is inevitable, that without loving others, you can never achieve no wisdom, no security, no richness, and nothing that is of real lasting value. And then the moment that happened, and there was finally a whole nation, a complete nation, on Mount Sinai, now רצה הקדוש ברוך הוא לספור חיילות התורה. God wanted to count the armies of the Torah. Why does he need to count them? He's God. Doesn't he know how many of them live? Of course he knows. He's God. So why does he have to count them? You have to remember, we are right now during what is called the counting of the Omen. But many times I explained, you can use the same words exactly with a totally different meaning. Because you can say Sfira as counting, but Sfira means also illuminating, because the word safar, like sapphire, it's a Hebrew word that means to shine. What is a sapphire? In Hebrew, it means a shining stone. So what is a sphira? Illumination. Like the 10 sphirot of the tree of life. So when we say that God wanted to count, lispo his armies, you can say he wanted to know what's the number, but that's impossible, because he's God. He has all the numbers, right? He has, I think his computers are much more updated than the computers of the National Statistical Bureau. Okay, so why does he need to count them? Because in Hebrew, to count and to illuminate, it's the same word. Okay, says the Zohar, בוא וראה, come and see. כל דבר שצריך להתיישב במקומו. Everything in the physical world needs to be settled, which means connected to its counterpart in the spiritual world, which means they are the roots, and the way you connect the roots to the branches is by the word of the mouth, which means to connect the branch above with the root below, the branch below with the root above, which means the physical aspect together with the spiritual aspect. God gave us the job to make that connection. Remember what was the first job that Adam did after he was created? He had to name every creature. So now you understand what was the job. Yes, the world is divided into physical, materialistic, and spiritual. The job of a human being, and here it starts with Adam, is when you give it a name, you're connecting the spiritual realm and the physical realm together when you have that kind of consciousness. Okay, and here it says, אינו מתיישב עד שנזכר בפה ונתמנה עליו. If you do not mention it with your mouth, it will not be connected. That's why a child is born, he has a name, he has a soul, but in order to activate it, you have to name your child. Okay? Also, when, very simple even, the food of Shabbat is totally different in quality and taste than the food of weekdays. And one of the ways to do it is whenever you start making the food, every step of making the food, you say, Lichvod Shabbat Kodesh, in honor of the holy Shabbat. The moment you say that piece of material, which means could be like dough, meat, potato, any kind of fruit or vegetable, stuff like this, the moment you say Lichvod Shabbat Kodesh, you raise that materialistic object, material, into the level of Shabbat. It has a different taste, therefore, it has a different quality. Why? Because words have power. Therefore, if you don't really need to do something productive with your words, you better keep them for yourself. And if you really know what to say in order to bring spirituality to the world and connect the physical and the material, then you know why you have a mouth, what you have a mouth for. Okay? And therefore, the Mishkan had to be anointed by words, by actions, so every part of the Mishkan, the tabernacle, every person, remember, the Mishkan, the power of the Mishkan is not just by its own. If there is a Mishkan, a temple, but there's nobody visiting the temple, is there really a temple? Okay? That reminds us of quantum physics. If a tree fell in the forest and nobody was there to witness, did it make really a sound? And the answer is no. It's illogical, but it's right. Okay? If there is a temple and nobody visits it and nobody prays over there, is there a temple? The answer is no. No, it's not a temple. It becomes a temple when people come and they worship in the temple and they activate the connection. And then the temple and then the upper Sefirot will become one. When you really use the different features of the temple as their representative of the upper walls, which means whatever was done in the tabernacle, which is the portable temple the Israelites used in the desert, that was basically mimicking or mirroring the structure of the universe. It was as above, so below. It is about creating harmony between the upper walls and the lower walls, the roots and the branches. The whole basic issue of monotheism, the religious part of monotheism, is that when you do physical actions with the right meditation and contemplation, you activate something in the hidden dimension of reality, which means when you physically hurt people, you metaphysically punch a hole in the universe. And then bliss is simply running out, running away. You have to understand that all of those values are about creating a harmonious environment above and below, soul and body. You cannot separate between them. So now verse 9, וזה וזה תורה, משכן היו באחד לחודש השני בשנה השנית. So why the Torah has to give us the date, that the date of that thing, of that census, was on the first day of the second month? And the answer is that what is the second month? If the first astrological month, the biblical month, is Nisan, Aries, the second is Taurus. Taurus is the left column. And the Zohar says, why the left column? Isn't the left column bad? No, it's not bad. The left column is there to be used. The right column is there to be used. It's like there's no evil left column. Left column, when it's not being ruled over by the right column, which means desire to receive that is not for the sake of sharing, that's evil. That's evil. But if you have a whole 12 tribes around the tabernacle and the Levites, and everyone is counted, what does it mean? Taken into account. Every person, how did they do the census? Moses and Aaron went from one tent, one family to another, and they counted each person individually. You don't do something like this. When was the last time you heard that the President of the United States of America went to every American home to count the people living there? The country will fall apart. Who is going to run the nation when the President goes and counts everybody? And the answer is, it's not about how many there are. As we said before, in order to illuminate every member of the Israelite nation, Moses and Aaron went to each household and they gave each person his own appointment, his own special blessing, which means it was the first time a whole nation received a consciousness of Shalom, of a whole. Every person was proud of the job they got. How do I know that? Let's go to chapter 1, verse 2. Se'u et rosh kol adat bnei Yisrael. Translation, count every head of the congregation. Okay, but what does it really say? What it really says, The literal translation, raise the head of every person among the community. How do you raise someone's head? Okay? When you tell them they're special. When you tell them that no one can without them. When you tell them that they have a special calling, mission, that everybody is dependent on them. When you explain to them how important it is what they do. Because if they don't do what they do, the others cannot do what they have to do. And Rabbi Ashlag explains, love others as you love yourself is conditioned with that consciousness. Why? When I am working in a company and every person in the company is doing exactly what they need to do according to their job description, that means that I am capable of investing all my might, all my desire, all my talent in bringing the best that I can bring. However, what if some of my colleagues are somehow dysfunctional? So in order for me to be functioning, I need to cover up and to be worried about what is that they forgot to do that I have now to do it instead so I can continue doing my work. Okay, let's say the person is supposed to clean the machine I'm working at. They didn't clean the machine yesterday properly. I'm coming in the morning and I want to start working. I cannot work because the machines are not functional because the person that needed to clean them did not clean them. Okay, if you think like this, you can spread it over the idea to every society, every unit of function in every society, every economy. When every person is proud about what they do, because they know that whatever they do is connected to a metaphysical aspect of reality, and if I do not do that, no one else will do that, and the universe will be lacking my job. So when I do it with passion, of course that everybody around me is basically supported, motivated, and empowered because my actions give them a lot of energy so they can do, in their turn, whatever they can do in their best. That's called love others as you love yourself. However, when you live in a society that people do not accept that idea, they do not see that as a covenant between them and the Creator, then you're so busy to cover up for what other people did not do, so your own functionality is blemished, and your ability to love others is also blemished at the same scale. So loving others is dependent on the functionality of the society. It's so impossible to have loving relationships in a dysfunctional society or community. Okay? On the other hand, the more functional is the community and the society, the easier it is to love each other and to complete each other. So again, as Rabbi Ashlag is saying, the rule, the condition of human redemption, the Messianic era, is about the knowledge that, no excuses. What is your job? You have to raise your head to do it with all your might, with all your excitement, unconditionally, and hope that by empowering other people, you bring the Messianic era closer, because the more supported they are, the better loving people they can become. The less supported they are, the harder it will be for them to even think about loving somebody else, because it's very hard to love when you are simply in feeling harassed, not supported, separated, and whatever. You're just in a chaotic, dysfunctional society. Okay, I think the time is, but you have to remember that issue. And again, we'll finish with the third concept. The first concept is the diversity, that we are part of a diverse society and universe. Each one of them, each one of us is different, and we need each other. The second is it is in both dimensions. And the third is verse 10. Every person that Moses and Aaron counted, they also blessed him. That's how they raised his head. Come and see, verse 11 in the Zohar. מי שאומר שבחו של חברו, מבניו או מכספו צריך לברכו. Whoever praises his friend also must bless him. Oh, you're so successful, and I wish you so many blessings that your success will be even greater than that. You must add, when you acknowledge somebody's success, you need to add to it. The words have a lot of power. How do we know? We learn it from Moses, שכתוב, והנחנו היום ככוכבי השמיים לאור. And Moses says, that's in the book of Numbers, chapter 1. And you are now so many like the stars of the heavens. But immediately he says, Hashem Elokei Avotechem Yosif Alechem Kachem Elef Amim. The Lord, the God of your fathers, will add upon your number 1,000 times more. Which means there are two blessings. One, you're so many, and the two, you're going to be even more than that. So when you live in a society that everybody, A, appreciates you, B, sees you as completing him, C, is so excited about your success and is blessing you to be even more successful, supporting with you. Those three concepts are so essential for free, successful society. These are the concepts of the Messiah. When we as a society understand that, we are getting there. And hopefully humanity is getting closer to that, because more and more people start to understand that. And we'll see the application. It all depends on us. Thank you so much and have a great week.